I'm Liberty.
And I think I'm Josh.
Last time I checked, you were.
Okay.
This is true. So today we have with us Alyssa Hazel. Alyssa is a writer and poet who enjoys exploring the weird, wonky, and wonderful through her work. Though she specializes in odd tales and horror, she dabbles in fantasy and science fiction, so it's right up our alley. Her pieces have found homes in Bluestem, The Red Coyote, and The Dark River Review. Her six books include the Twitching Light trilogy, The Third Test, To Those Who Haunt You, and Among the Juniper Trees. Her latest release, as of the day of this recording, is the Twitching Light Omnibus. Alyssa, welcome to Lasers, Dragons, and Keyboards. It's such a delight to have you here today.
Yeah, welcome.
Good to be here.
Great. So we do like to start off all of our interviews with the same question. So, what is your name? What is your quest? And what is your favorite color?
Um, well, you said my name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sorry, the dog came in and was trying to yeah. Uh yeah. Um my name, like you said, is Alyssa Hazel. Was the
Your
my
quest.
my quest. I just want to write the books that younger me would have been able to read. I was a voracious reader and I read well above my grade level. But my parents really didn't want me to get into like stuff that was kind of gross. So I ended up reading a lot of older school um works, and so I want to create uh books that kind of appeal to that same uh, group of people, like books that adults can enjoy, but like voracious younger readers can read without their parents um, feeling like they're getting into stuff that kids really shouldn't get into. So like older school style stuff. My favorite color really just depends on the day. Today it's orange, as you guys can tell.
Well,
Yeah.
you look very pretty today.
Thank you, thank you.
So,
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your latest project?
Oh, well, I have a couple of projects in there. Right now, today's I'm launching the Twitching Light Omnibus, which is a sort of an amalgamation of my work for the I want to say the past or the first 6 years of my writing career. It contains everything from my first three books, which is the Twitching Light trilogy. Some of it's slightly revised. A lot of this stuff I started writing when I was like, I want to say in my, like, I wasn't even 21 at the time. So going back through and just kind of examining things, making sure the word choice wasn't too repetitive, and on a couple of the stories, maybe fleshing things out a little bit more. But it also contains a couple news stories and poems that haven't really seen the light of day yet. A couple of, at least one piece that's been in a magazine since then. So just sort of rounding out the bases of my earliest work. So that
Okay.
is the book that's launching today. And then I have the sequel to my first novel, The Third Test. It's the second initiative is coming out mid-July. So that's going to be my next project coming up.
and what genre is that?
The second initiative?
Mm-hmm.
Um so the first book in the series, it was intended to be standalone. I would call that sort of a standard science fiction thriller.
Okay.
Um this book upcoming, I would say it is uh in the same vein, but it also um let's see, what's the right word for it? I think I added like a little bit of like a cowboy kind of feeling to the book. I played a lot of Fallout New Vegas in the break before um before I ended up starting work. So I listened to a lot of like Big Iron in the months leading up to it. So there is a little bit more of the frontier feeling, I guess, in this sequel.
Okay.
Especially the ending where it's essentially a clash between uh, a bunch of gangsters from a colony planet that won a civil war, um, with clashing with the scientists and denizens of this satellite that's out in remote space.
Hmm.
Huh.
So it has a little bit of like the Western air to it.
So maybe tiny bit of, yeah, Firefly. That's exactly what I was
Um,
thinking.
Yeah.
kind of with a little bit more of like mysticism in there
Mm,
as well.
Okay.
interesting.
So kind of a blend of it's what's the term? Science fantasy?
Kind of, but not quite there. It's more of a I would say uh I don't want to call it like a religious element, um, but a oh, what is even the right word? Um, it's more of a clerical kind of magic, than
Okay.
like straight up, like a laser sword kind of thing.
Okay.
Um,
We're all D&D players here, so
yeah. So
you can
Yeah.
say clerical.
but yeah, by clerical, I mean sort of like the religious element, where I'm trying to figure out the best word to describe it because it's not necessarily magic. It's not necessarily sorcery. It's sort of the influence of the divine on the uh sort of the world. It
Okay.
has uh, this ore, like ore in the world, this mineral, um that contains like mystical properties. Originally, it was gifted by one of the two deities in the world to sort of aid and act as sort of a symbol of the relationship. Uh, sorry, the dog's back. A symbol of the
It's all right.
relationship, but it ended up slowly being as the world became more secular over the millennia, it became known as a source of faster than light travel in the world. So
Oh,
it was
okay.
a resource that was quickly uh, utilized for that, and ever since then, the world's just gotten more and more chaotic. Sort of like there's a intertwining between the mysticism and sort of the science, sort of like there's a thematic of mysticism and faith versus secularism and like efficiency.
Mhm.
Um, for
Okay.
example, in the first book, the one of the characters who becomes the main character in the second book, her name is Katina, and she is an acolyte of the Church of Mitriana, which is the main church and the main faith of the world and the setting. Um, One of the things that people of the faith aren't supposed to do, they're not supposed to travel faster than light,
Hmm.
um, because that is a misuse of the ore that is meant to represent part of their faith. But
Hmm.
in order to escape pirates, the pilot and the engineer uses the mitrite to blast away from these pirates. So on the one hand, you have what is the sort of the tenets of the faith versus the practical usage. So that's been something
Okay.
I play around with throughout the series, and I think that's where like the mysticism comes in. It doesn't necessarily come in from like lightning coming out of people's fingers.
Okay. That makes sense.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I intended with the third test that it would be um more of a standalone project. I really wasn't intending it to have a sequel. But the there was, despite the issues that were in the first book, because your first novel is always going to have some kind of drawbacks and things that you could wish would have changed. People wanted to see more of the world, and it's been my most successful book to date. um so when I went back and re-examined it, one of the chief things was that they wanted to see more of the world. So I'm like, okay, let me further develop this kind of uh the nature of the ore itself, kind of more of a detail about how it's been exploited, because it's how it's been exploited has led to the conflict, one of the main conflicts in the setting, where the main planet Cassian has was using the colony planet Breccia to furnish their needs. Like, it was basically a mining colony because it was rich in this mitrite ore, because Cassian had basically tapped out their own natural resources. Because mitrite will come back on its own, but you have to be very, like, you have to steward it well. You can't just carve it all out and then not let it regrow, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
because they found Breccia and that's loaded with the stuff, it essentially led to the current civil war, because Breccia was tired of the demands on their citizens, the lack of safety regulations, the ore sickness that started occurring more and more often to the miners who went down to sort of plunge the depths. So in the second book, I'm trying to explore that a little bit more often, um, because the main it bridges between antagonist and dual protagonist. The main
Okay.
antagonist of this second book, his name's Raynor. His brother has the mitrite sickness and is starting to get worse, and it's almost this cancerous effect where his brother was caught in an explosion, and some like fine mitrite dust ended up lodged in his skull, and he's
Mhm.
like, my brother is dying. The only place where I can find this mitrite is this what's it, the people on this satellite. It's the scientific observation kind of platform in the depths of space. They research the mitrite there, so maybe I can find a cure for my brother there. And that's where this, like, sort of this galaxy-wide conflict has entered the sort of the mundane life of everyone who's involved. So
Okay.
I wanted to create that sort of um, that element going in of how ordinary people make decisions based off of what happens all around them and that kind of thing. So
Mm.
it's just been a wild kind of expansive thing. I did some research into like Cold War stuff and things like that, and I was
Yeah.
inspired a little bit by like like the Fossey Jaw stuff that happened when people started working with radium, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just drawing from a lot of real life experiences to create this story, because I feel like that's kind of what people are drawn to with the books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it sounds really fascinating. It sounds like you've really put your work in on it.
It
Um,
it really does.
it's
So
it's it's it has been a lot of work, especially because um this time around it went from the third test took me about 9 months, 10 months to complete and get out into the world. The second initiative, which is currently out is finishing up with beta readers now, and I'm actually going to start on the second round of edits this upcoming week. I wrote that in about 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be out by July, which means it will be the fastest turnaround of this sort of sort of the novels that I've written, because I've had one other one that came out last year called Among the Juniper Trees,
Mm-hmm.
and that took around a year to write as well. So it's been a pretty fascinating process. I like drawing into research. I love delving into historical references when creating, because I feel like when you create worlds, uh, people can feel authenticity when you pull from real life historical examples and how real people acted in similar circumstances in our world. So if you can bring that realism and that weight in from contemporary sources and add it to your world, I think it helps develop everything and make it feel more real.
Almost definitely. I definitely agree with you on that. So.
Yeah. Well, well, if I'm being honest, my fast writing leads to some spelling errors, and by some I mean sometimes I look at my tweets. We talked about X, and I look back and I'm like, I meant to write this. What I actually wrote was this. Especially after, I think it's after 9:30 at night, my spelling goes out the window entirely. The third okay, so everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we love the third test." And then I look at it, I'm like, "Okay, I keep finding things." So, I actually, because I'm a very very smart person, I released the third test. I got back from home from a convention. I'm at home at 8 o'clock at night. I've just driven like 3 hours to get home from a weekend long convention, and I have the brilliant idea that I should sit down and finish editing my book and release it that night, because
Oh my.
that's just the person I am. And of course, that being said, uh, this is the book that everyone picks up. And
Nice.
so I actually I should have done this a while ago, and I am grateful to the readers who have stuck around despite the issues that they have found. I'm actually it's the third test is actually with somebody who's re-proofreading it right now.
Mhm.
And then I'm gonna do kind of a soft re-release. I might do a new cover with it as well to kind of signal, hey, this is a new iteration, sort of,
Mhm.
just to kind of, because I don't want to change the book too much that it becomes an entirely different entity, because I feel like you can over edit a book.
Oh yeah.
But I am going
Yeah.
back through, fine tooth comb, ran it through Grammarly, running it through the proofreader, making sure it's a little bit more tight. Um, I've also realized now that I've Grammarly installed how often I misspell things when I go out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Mhm.
But no, it's I'm just gonna be re-releasing that. I'm
Mhm.
thinking sometime in June. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. No, I've learned my lesson. It's part of the reason why I wanted to get like the first iteration of the second initiative done, so that it would have plenty of time, like a solid couple of months between when I was done with it the
Mhm.
first time and when it went over to uh, beta readers
Mhm.
and proofreading and all this other stuff, to kind of just sweep it and see if I'd be able to do it. I'm also now in the position where I can actually like afford to pay someone to do this kind of thing.
Mhm.
Which is
Um,
always nice.
yeah, I know this is probably a controversial thing, but I'll just drop it on an interview anyways. It's um when I was done with this with stress fractures, I was just in this place where I just couldn't afford to hire an editor. Like the gal
Mhm.
I'd worked with for the stress fractures was amazing and great, but it's just like, okay, um, I haven't made money back from either any of my 3 books. Like the first 3 books, first book did pretty well. Second and third just didn't do well at all. I
Yep.
think uh, Stress Fractures and Pleasant Little Moments are actually no longer available in paperback. They're still technically ebook, but I might, if because I don't want to take the ebook copy from people who purchased it, because I feel like that would be unfair. But I've actually discontinued the second 2 books, um, because I'm doing the omnibus, and the other 2 just didn't perform as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when I got done with them, and it's just like, okay, no one's buying these books. I don't have the money, and even if I did, I don't know if I could justify dropping however much money it would be to edit this book. Especially because I've met one editor in my entire career, as of this point, that hasn't done me dirty in a sense. Like it's been pretty bad, and that's a conversation
Mhm.
topic all for another. I don't know if that's there's a it's a
Yeah.
sensitive topic, but like for every
Yeah.
great editor, there's someone who would just run your book through Grammarly and then collect $500 from you.
Mhm.
Um, so but I'm getting the third test done through. I'm gonna do another get the second initiative proofread, and I'm gonna just start getting at least that pattern going from then on, because I want to get my books as polished as I can, even if it's
Mhm.
difficult to find good editors.
Yeah. I
Oh yeah.
sent Joshua and I co-wrote a book, and we're in the process of doing a Kickstarter this summer for it. I had sent off the file to one of our friends who's also an editor, and she's going through it right now.
Mhm.
I had to open up the file a while back because we're starting work on the second book, and I needed to look up a name. Right there at the tail end, last 2 pages of the book, there's a typo, and I'm messaging my friend
Yep.
going, "I just found a typo." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah.
And it's just like,
Well,
how does it even? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, I think Liberty pointed this out to me earlier, that my author bio had an issue in it. I'm like, how long has it been like that? Like without anybody, like, cause and I'm just like, oh, this has been on the back cover of so many books,
Mhm.
and I think that people, I don't know if it's just an automatic thing that the human brain does, but um I think our brains are naturally inclined to fill in the blanks when there's something. Um, so unless it's like particularly egregious, I feel like sometimes our brains don't catch it automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So marketing.
Hmm.
Um, now I had said to Alyssa a couple of days ago that I think her online presence is hilarious, but how do you go about actually marketing? Uh,
Well, it's really dependent on I don't know what your strengths are. I think a lot of people assume you have to market a book in a particular way just because everybody else has done it this particular way. There are some people who say you don't sell books on X, you sell them on Facebook. I've sold more books since getting active on X than I have anywhere else. It depends on your genre. It depends on your reader demographic. It depends on a lot of things. Um, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of different people are going to tell you a lot of different things. I think that establishing a platform for yourself, I typically think that you as an author should be present on have like a landing pad on a couple different platforms, like the major ones. But I feel like if you pick three that you're fairly present on, that's probably like the golden ticket. Like you don't want to be inactive on the other ones, but um you should figure out which three work best for you to maintain and then stick with it. Because you have to maintain some level of activity on a platform in order to gain traction in the algorithm.
Hmm.
But at the same time, we all know as writers that it's very easy to like lose all your spare time on social media by just getting on the app. It can be a pretty delicate balance to figure out is how to have time to write and then also have time to market. Um
That's true.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think the most valuable thing is to find out what two or three works best for you. Um
Yeah.
So for me, the ones I typically am the most active on is X, Facebook, and Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, Instagram is a little tricky because it's so photo and image based that
Mhm.
Hmm.
unless you have some good marketing images, it can kind of go late. So normally I do things like update kind of photos or photos of the dog or like book cover photos or like photos from conventions, like
Mhm.
keeping up with that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Facebook is kind of interesting because it's a combination of photos and images, so it's kind of like the sweet spot between X and Instagram. The problem is, I feel like Facebook requires a lot more diligence and dedication because you can go on X and like do a quick tweet and that keeps you good with the algorithm. With Facebook,
Hmm.
it's kind of more you have to be a little more intentional on what's put up there. I feel like because that's how you draw in
Mhm.
more people.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
it's
yeah.
yeah, it's difficult to grow organically on Facebook unless you're being very consistent for a
Mhm.
period of time.
Yeah. When I first got on Facebook, and I've been on longer than I've had children, it was much easier to grow a following than it is now. And, just the algorithms have changed so much in the last 15 years. It's ridiculous.
It wasn't
So,
Yeah,
90%
Yeah.
advertising.
oh, yeah.
yeah. It's and that's why it can be a little difficult because it's like, okay, how do you? Because I was looking at the statistics. Meta is still one of the biggest platforms globally.
Mhm.
Even though I like X and I like going on there for memery, Facebook and Instagram are still some of the biggest platforms by far. They're still bigger than
Mhm.
YouTube, essentially.
Mhm.
And Instagram creates like a different experience than the other two because they have like the reels and the videos. Like it because so it brings in some of the TikTok elements without you having to go on TikTok, which is an entirely different can of worms.
Oh, yeah.
Um so yeah, it's I would say find out what works for you. I know that's like a super
Mhm.
uh ambiguous thing to say, but marketing is one of those things that you have to take the time and you have to make the effort. I wouldn't spend any money on advertising until you have a couple books out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That's kind
right.
of generally the rule of thumb with any debut author. Wait until you
Yeah,
have 2 or 3 books out.
yeah. Because otherwise, you spend the money, they buy one book, and then it's like, okay, where do they go from there?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, and you market a series different than you market standalones or things like that, and so you really have to play around with what you have, and it's gonna
Mhm.
take time and it's gonna take intentionality. Um, I'm actually taking a course right now to try to figure out the sort of the back room algorithmic stuff with Meta in terms of Facebook and Instagram. So pray for me. I think I'm out of my depth a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Who's
but
doing the course?
it's a gentleman last name Piper.
Okay.
It's sort of a click testing thing
Okay.
where it's like, okay, take the first round of things, make everything all the same color blocks and find out what works best with these, and then go on to your next round and sort of
Mhm.
trial by firing a bunch of different elements to figure out
Mhm.
what works the best for this particular book.
A/B
Um,
testing, basically.
yeah, basically. Which I feel like is good if this is something that you want to make into a career. I
Mhm.
feel like one of the biggest things that I feel like can depress some writers is figuring out like what level of what do you want your writing journey to be like? Because I have read a lot of good books written by people who are full-time doctors.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
writing is not their full-time occupation.
Mhm.
You can write a book and it not be your full-time occupation. You can say, "Oh, I just want to write whatever I want to write." And if people end up loving it, that's amazing. But I just want to write books because I want to write what appeals to me.
Mhm.
And
And that's the way to do it.
yeah, I mean, sometimes it depends on if you want to make this a steady career or um if you just want to do this mostly for fun.
Mhm.
Not saying that you shouldn't write what you enjoy, but we all know that George R. R. Martin could have made a lot more money by now if like he's a millionaire, but if he had done what might have been a little bit unfun for him and finished his series,
Yeah,
uh
killed off so many people, etc., etc.
yeah,
Yes.
like let's blame everything else except for me for why my series isn't finished that people are waiting on for like over a decade now. But
Yeah.
um
Yep.
I think there is the element of uh I know people are like, "Oh, if you love doing what you do, you never work a day in your life." And that's not really
Oh, that.
true. Um
It is,
like
but it isn't, yeah.
yeah, like for example, when I was looking at doing the second initiative, I wasn't planning on doing a sequel. I had already written a first book in a duology, which was among the juniper trees, and that's what I was working on. And I was planning on just launching right into the sequel to the duology, and then I had a lot of people who really wanted a sequel to the second initiative. And it's kind of like, okay, if I want to make this into a career, I need to listen to what my readers are saying and what my readers are wanting. And it's kind of like having an if you own an ice cream parlor and you're like, well, I really want my red bean ice cream to be my main attraction, but no one likes red bean ice cream, even though red bean ice cream or like sorbet is actually pretty delicious. Like if people want mint chocolate chip and vanilla and chocolate, like you have to understand what is it that my readers want. Not that you have to cater to them all the time, not that you can't have the red bean ice cream as an option, but you have to understand um, where are my bills getting paid, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Oh,
yeah,
we get
Oh,
it.
yeah, yep, yep.
We
yeah,
get it.
yeah,
So,
and you can still enjoy what you're creating, and you don't. I think readers can sense if you don't enjoy what you're making. But you also have to remember that the guy who made Sherlock Holmes eventually started hating Sherlock Holmes and then killed him
Mhm.
off. And then people rioted and wore black bands around their arms to like mourn
Mhm.
Sherlock Holmes. And then his
yep.
mother sent him a letter telling him to bring him back. And it's just like, at some point, if they really want Sherlock Holmes back, you write how he survived a fall off a cliff somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you figure it
Yep.
out. If your mother tells you to bring back Sherlock Holmes, at some point you figure it out.
And now it's. I mean, it's still one of the biggest IPs out there. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aaron, you want to take another question?
We'll try. Apparently we're having some audio issues on my end, just on Twitch for some reason, so...
Blessings.
Yeah,
I'm
just...
hearing you now, so you're fine.
okay, that's good, because there'll be us like to randomly decide, I don't want to use this microphone. I want to use this microphone over here that doesn't work. It's just like,
Yes.
why? Quit switching it! I didn't tell you to switch it.
Yeah.
It's one of my biggest pet peeves with computers is no, don't decide things for me. Do what I tell you. But anyway, rabbit trail over. But now for something completely different. Who's your captain?
My
So
captain.
out of all the captains in speculative fiction, which one would you willingly follow if you were off on a fictional adventure?
Oh.
Can I
Can I
choose
say
your
none of the above?
I could yeah, I could ask who your favorite character that you've created is, and that's an even worse question. But
Oh no, it's well, okay. Well, to the captain question, I personally look. Do you know the movie *Romancing the Stone*?
I have heard of
Yeah.
it, but I personally haven't seen it. So.
I am her. I am she. I like eat something wrong and I turn red. I was not destined. Like I might actually be allergic to dust.
Oh
I
no.
It does happen.
I'd sometimes pick up boxes and then like a red line appears on my arm from where the box touched me. So for me personally, I don't see myself ever going out on anything more thrilling than like a cruise.
There's sea dust there.
Yeah, there's dust there. They might. I don't have my moodang in space. I don't. The IRS can still find you in space. So I mean, like, what's the point? What's the point in going out to space if the IRS can still find me? Um, um. The favorite character I've ever made. That's a. Well, I think there are a couple favorites. Um, I really enjoy Lieutenant Walter Finnegan from Among the Juniper Trees, though that might be because I based him slightly on Lieutenant Sharp from the Sharp's Rifles series. Yeah, he was a lot of fun. And people really seem to gravitate towards him in the book. Then there's also I really like Dr. Amelia Frost, who is a character, a recurring character in the Twitching Light trilogy. She is a doctor who is also a vampire who runs a clinic called the Vensang Clinic, which essentially acts as an Uber Eats for vampires.
Okay then.
Basically, because
Interesting.
vampires in my mythology are actually based on the story of the mysterious case of Mr. Valdemar, which I believe is a Poe story about a man being hypnotized at the point of death. So for me, vampires, blood somehow keeps their system active. Like their blood moving. So if they don't have blood, their body starts to rot around them.
Oh, interesting.
To the point where they will literally like fall apart. They'll basically turn into basically they'll decay around themselves. And because their spirit is immortal, they become ghosts. So ghosts in my world are actually vampires who refuse to drink blood.
Oh.
That's
So,
interesting.
Fascinating world building.
yeah. Thanks. I wanted to bring back the idea that being a vampire is actually a curse.
Mhm.
So you either decide when you become a vampire, either you drink the blood of humans and you can continue to interact and connect with the population, or you can refuse and you will forever be alone, essentially, on this mortal plane. So giving this idea of how far will you go to maintain human connection? Dr. Amelia is essentially, she caters to vampires who don't really want to like drink straight from the bottle or straight from the tap, so to speak. She basically pays college kids and other broke people to give blood at the blood bank, and then she sells that blood to vampires that are either in the public eye or for some reason just ethically they don't want to drink people's blood.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy her because she's essentially a Luddite. She hates computers. She doesn't like interacting with them. In one of the stories called The Merchant of Blood, she literally like pulls out a USB and is like, "Okay, what did my computer class tell me about how to put a USB into a computer?" And one of her employees,
That's great.
named Jane, is in the process of what she does is she takes all these like physical files and is in the process of changing them over through like an old I forget exactly, it was like a TS something computer, like the old style computers, in the process of turning into that so she can have floppy disks. All of her files are on floppy disks now. But she was a lot of fun because she's very much a uh the lawful neutral vampire. She's not really into like killing people for killing people's sake, but she's like a if she has to maintain the integrity of the secrecy of her clinic, she will end certain people, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, but she's also like, she's not Alice. She's not this fighter. She's a doctor. Like, she's not a ninja or anything like that. So that adds another layer of vulnerability to her as a person, especially in a new world where there's vampire hunters and werewolves, and like, what's a doctor gonna do when faced with a werewolf, even if she's a vampire? So,
Mm-hmm.
so she was a lot of fun. Lieutenant Finnegan is fun. I don't know. There's just because I write short stories, I have like over 50 main characters, and so it's just been an interesting process. I think though the most interesting character to write was a gentleman named Vazo, who's in the third test. And because the challenge with Vazo is I wanted to create a guy who's like an older black man who's just tired, and he's the pilot. And I was like, the challenge is he never says a sentence that's over 4 words. So every
wow.
bit of
That could be fun to write. Yeah.
every bit of like, the only time he goes to anything longer than that is when it's very, very important. So like every single sentence in the book, as far as I can remember, that he utters is 4 words or less. So
That's
he was
impressive.
yeah, he was fun to write for that reason, because it felt like technically interesting because it was creating this character and showing part of who he was just through the lines and the context itself. So he was a fun guy to write. Not gonna lie.
Sounds like
That
it.
sounds
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
really fun. So, um, what music gets your words flowing? Or are you one of these authors that has to have absolute silence to create your worlds?
It really, I hate to say it depends, but it does depend a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. Um, I have gone everywhere from like complete silence to I throw in an episode of Columbo on as white noise.
Mhm.
And because I've seen almost every episode of Columbo probably like 2 or 3 times at this point. So I just throw it on, and there's something like so soothing about listening to him like solve murders while I edit. But I've also discovered that complete silence is also really nice. I've also thrown on the soundtrack for New Vegas while editing or writing, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really what one of my favorite things to do when brainstorming is I go on the treadmill and I keep bringing the speed up as much as possible. So I'm dying physically. So when my legs are threatening to give out, I just let myself have an out of body experience and just like forget my legs exist and like try to picture the scene in front of me. So it's like I'm I'm going to die, but I'm just going to hallucinate the next part of my book. So most of my great what's it? Well, most of my great ideas have happened when I'm running almost 6 miles an hour on the treadmill, breathing my last. It's like a fun little brush with death just to get the creative juices flowing. Um,
That is one of the most interesting ways of entering flow state that I have ever heard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I need an out of body experience, and I can't use drugs, so I'm just gonna get on the treadmill for
If it
for the
hurts,
next.
it
It's
works.
technically it's the same thing, oxygen deprivation. So
Yeah, it's just like cut off my air. Let me just see sounds and hear everyone talk at the same time.
Oh my god.
Turns out I'm in the Matrix, and every time I'm almost being brought back to life, Vazo is actually my doctor. He keeps trying to bring me back, and I won't let him. Mm.
Oh my
But
gosh.
Nice.
it the I don't know. Speaking on that note, if I can recommend any YouTube channel, it's Terrible Writing Advice. Um, because I have received a lot of, especially while nearly dying on the treadmill, a lot of ideas for books have germinated from that video. Some of his videos, like there was one. I know this was the entirety of Among the Juniper Trees. Not the entirety, but like 90% of the world building came from a question that I thought of while I was watching his video on government styles.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah. So the video, one of the things in the video was talking about like mega corporations and science fiction stories. And I thought
hmm
to myself, okay, what would a mega corporation system look like in a fantasy historical sense?
yeah.
Yeah, so that's how the whole setting of Among the Juniper Trees got started. Um, Essentially taking the sort of the idea of the East India Trading Company and mashing it with uh, a monarchy and that kind of thing, and who is actually controlling this part of the country, the monarchy or the CEO of the Boone Trading Company, like who's actually in charge of the country. um so that was pretty good. I recommend his channel if you guys
Mhm.
haven't run into him yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. I think I've heard about it in passing, just
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
watched it. But yeah, I just linked it for our
yeah.
show notes for your episode.
Yeah, no. I've usually there's kind of a humorous thing, but sometimes it's like it sparks something, like because he talks about the tropes of it. It's like, okay, what if I took this trope and shifted it entirely into this completely different direction?
Hmm.
That's fun to
Very
do, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, what was I going to say?
Definitely some
Uh,
words.
yes. So, uh, where can we go to learn about more about you and what you have to offer and what's coming next?
Well, um, my website does exist, but I don't update it nearly as much as I should. If you're looking for, yeah, I feel so bad for all their websites in the era of social media because it's like
Mhm.
I should update you, but by the time I'm done updating you, 5 new things will have popped up. But I digress. Um, I can usually be found on X, though I have removed it from my phone in an attempt to be more productive. So I'm
Good
uh
luck.
yeah.
Yes.
X is a good place to find me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. I typically do the most updates on Facebook and X. And if you are looking for events and conventions where I'm going to be, all those events will be on Facebook.
Okay.
All right.
And are links to those on your website then?
Yeah, all the links should be active and valid.
Okay.
I just probably need to update like the blog posts and things like
I
that.
I understand. I need to do the same for my website too.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, Alyssa, it's been fantastic having you today. Thank you for jumping in
yeah,
both feet first and seeing what craziness we run into.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So, real quick announcements. We don't have anybody right now scheduled. We've had some scheduling conflicts
Oh no.
arise. So we don't have anybody right now for future episodes, but we will keep an eye on our Facebook page and we'll see what comes of that. Um,
Yeah.
Josh and I are currently in the Eon City Burnout Kickstarter. You can find that at bit.ly, ly / fellowship anthology.
Are you burnt
Um,
out from all the marketing for that?
oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, that's a different rant.
That is a different rant. I think that's going on as of the day of this recording. I think we've got 9 more days left. We go through the 19th of May. Um, we are funded. I think we've already accomplished our first stretch goal.
Woohoo!
So we'll be announcing our backer perks on Monday, I think. Aaron, do you have anything?
I do. One moment.
Uh-oh. I think I know
Uh-oh,
what this is.
he has to actually grab something.
Yeah, I should have had this right before, but the Dostophile 2 anthology is out, and I have a story in there. So if you
Sweet.
like superheroes, there's a whole bunch of awesome superhero stories in that. Go give it a read.
Yeah, and our friend Heidi Burke is behind that, so go look
Yep.
that up. Otherwise,
Fun way to discover a
well,
lot of new authors and a lot of neat stories.
yeah.
Yes.
So
So,
unless anybody has anything else, we'll hopefully get somebody scheduled in because we've just had some scheduling
Oh, we'll
conflicts.
definitely
So
get somebody scheduled in. The question is who?
yeah, who and when. So otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
yeah, and thanks again, Alyssa.
No
Thank you.
problem. And thanks
See
for
ya.
having me.
Yes.
Thanks for being on, yeah.